The great chamber of Valdris Prime Station hummed with the voices of 100 different species, each representative seated in their designated section, according to their world status in the galactic community. And at the center podium stood Ambassador Krell of the Thorian Dominion, his forearms spread wide in a gesture meant to convey both authority and reasonable concern. "Esteemed council members," Krell began, his translation device converting his clicking speech into common galactic standard. "We gathered today to address an injustice that has persisted for far too long." The chamber quieted, curious eyes and sensor organs turning toward the Thorian diplomat, who stood nearly 3 meters tall with chitinous armor that gleamed under the station's artificial lighting. For over 200 cycles, humanity has claimed exclusive rights to a massive sector of space. Krell continued, his mandibles clicking with agitation. They refuse all passage, all trade routes, all scientific expeditions through their so-called territory. In the human section, Ambassador Linda Morgan sat with perfect stillness, her hands folded on the desk before her, her expression calm and patient as she listened to yet another challenge to human sovereignty. Beside her sat Captain Danny Price in his dress uniform, his military bearing evident even in the casual way he observed the proceedings. "The Thorian Dominion proposes," Krell announced with dramatic flair, "that this council revoke humanity's territorial restrictions and open those space lanes to free galactic commerce." Murmurs rippled through the chamber, some species nodding in agreement while others looked uncertain. Council Speaker Vess, a floating crystalline being from Meridian, pulsed with soft blue light to call for order. "Ambassador Krell." Vess's voice resonated through the chamber like wind chimes. "Humanity's territorial claim was recognized by this council 60 cycles ago. What new evidence do you present to justify reopening this matter?" Krell's eyes gleamed with what might have been triumph among his species. "I present the evidence of 17 expeditions, Speaker Vess. 17 separate missions that entered human space over the past century." The chamber erupted in shocked voices. Several species delegations, turning to stare at the human section with expressions ranging from alarm to accusation. None of these expeditions returned. Krell's voice cut through the noise. 17 ships, thousands of crew members, simply vanished after crossing into human territory. "That is a lie," Linda's voice carried across the chamber, clear and firm without being raised, and the room fell silent. She rose slowly from her seat, smoothing her diplomatic robes with unhurried grace. "Ambassador Krell speaks of 17 unauthorized incursions into sovereign human space, not expeditions. Each of these vessels ignored multiple warnings, refused all communication, and entered our territory with active weapon systems." "You admit to destroying them, then?" Krell shot back, his mandibles spreading in what his species considered a smile. "I admit nothing of the sort," Linda replied, walking calmly toward the center floor. "I state only that these vessels entered human space without permission and did not return. What happened to them is a matter your own intelligence services should investigate before making accusations." Danny watched from his seat, his trained eye catching the subtle tells of various species around the chamber. Some looked genuinely concerned, while others seemed to be calculating political advantage. The Thorian delegation appeared too confident, as if this entire session had been planned in advance. The human delegation maintains, Linda addressed the full council now, that our territorial boundaries exist for the protection of all species, not as some primitive expression of paranoia. "Protection?" Krell laughed, a harsh chittering sound. "The mighty Deathworlders need to protect themselves from peaceful explorers and traders?" "No." Linda's response came quietly but with absolute certainty. "Our borders protect you." The chamber exploded in reaction, dozens of species speaking at once, some demanding explanation, while others shouted in outrage at what they perceived as a threat. Speaker Vess pulsed with red light. calling for order with increasing urgency. Ambassador Morgan, please clarify your statement. Linda turned slowly, meeting the eyes of as many delegates as she could. Humanity claims no superiority over any species represented here. We seek no conflict, no expansion, no galactic dominance. We ask only one thing. Request permission before entering our space. Follow our designated routes, and you will find us the most welcoming species in this galaxy. And if we refuse? Krell demanded. Then you take responsibility for whatever happens. Linda said simply. Our warning systems are clear, our boundaries are well marked, and our laws are posted in every galactic database. Ignorance is no excuse, and hostile intent will be met with consequences. Is that a threat? Another delegate called out from the Zorathian section. It is a fact. Danny spoke for the first time, his military bearing lending weight to his words. Just as it is a fact that gravity will crush an unprotected ship, or that flying into a star will destroy any vessel. Human space has its own laws, and those who violate them face the results of their choices. Krell slammed one of his 4 fists on his podium. The Thorian Dominion does not fear Deathworld primitives or their mysterious threats. We demand free passage through human territory, and we will take it if necessary. The chamber fell into shocked silence at such an open declaration. Several species delegations immediately began quiet conversations with their aides. While others looked to Speaker Vess for guidance, Linda's expression never changed, remaining calm and professional. Then the Thorian Dominion will face the same outcome as the previous 17 unauthorized incursions. Humanity will not prevent you from entering our space, Ambassador Krell. We will simply continue to warn you, as we warn all who approach our borders. You cannot stop us, Krell declared triumphantly. We do not need to. Linda replied, then added softly, you will stop yourselves, or something else will. Humanity merely maintains the warning beacons. Speaker Vess pulsed with calming blue light. This council will table the Thorian motion pending further investigation. Ambassador Morgan, humanity will prepare a detailed report on all incidents within your territory. Ambassador Krell, the Thorian Dominion will refrain from any unauthorized incursions until this matter is resolved. Both ambassadors acknowledged the speaker's ruling, though Krell's body language suggested barely contained fury, while Linda simply nodded with quiet acceptance as the session ended and delegates began filing out. Danny moved to Linda's side, speaking quietly. He's going to try it anyway. You know that, right? Of course, Linda replied, her calm mask finally cracking just slightly to show concern. They always do. Contact Earth Command and inform them we have another one coming. Standard protocol. Danny nodded and activated his secure communicator, sending an encrypted burst transmission while Linda gathered her documents and prepared for the inevitable follow-up meetings with concerned council members in the Thorian section. Krell huddled with his military advisors, prepared the fleet. We launch in 3 weeks. Humanity wants to play mysterious and threatening? We will call their bluff and show the galaxy that the Thorian Dominion bows to no one. His chief military commander clicked acknowledgement. The Pride of Dominion and 6 support vessels will be ready, Ambassador. We will chart human space and return with proof that their warnings are nothing but primitive fear tactics. Krell watched as the human delegation left the chamber, his eyes following Linda with cold calculation. Let them warn all they want. By the time we return, this council will strip humanity of their territorial rights, and the Thorian Dominion will control the richest trade routes in this sector. 3 weeks, Danny thought as he walked beside Linda through the station corridors. 3 weeks until another species learned why humanity's warnings should be taken seriously. And 3 weeks until the Thorian Dominion discovered that some mysteries existed for very good reasons. The Pride of Dominion cut through the darkness of space at the head of a formation of 6 Thorian warships. their hulls bristling with weapon systems and scanning arrays, designed to map every detail of the territory they were about to violate. And Fleet Commander Dravik stood on his bridge with all four arms crossed behind his back, watching the boundary markers of human space grow closer on the main display. All ships report ready status, his communications officer announced, mandibles clicking with nervous energy despite attempts to maintain military composure. Weapons charged? Dravik asked without turning from the screen. All vessels at full combat readiness. Commander, his tactical officer confirmed. Shield systems at maximum, point defense active, and strike packages prepared. Science officer Yenna checked her instruments for the fourth time in as many minutes. Her smaller frame hunched over the sensor console. Commander, I am detecting the automated warning beacons. They are broadcasting in 87 different languages, including our own. What did they say? Dravik asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. They warn that we are approaching sovereign human territory and must request permission before crossing the boundary. Yenna read from her screen. They also warn that unauthorized entry may result in, and I quote, consequences beyond our understanding. Several of the bridge crew chittered with what might have been laughter or nervousness, the sounds echoing in the metal chamber. Beyond our understanding, Dravik repeated with evident scorn. How typical of Deathworlders to resort to vague threats when they lack actual power. Should I broadcast our request for permission? The communications officer asked. Absolutely not. Dravik's voice carried the weight of command. The Thorian Dominion requests nothing from primitives. Activate all recording systems and prepare detailed scans. We will show the Council exactly what humanity is hiding in their forbidden zone. The fleet crossed the invisible line that marked human territory, and immediately every ship's threat detection systems began screaming warnings about the dozens of automated platforms that surrounded them. Weapons locked and tracking, defensive platforms detected, tactical reported urgently. Human design, advanced energy weapons, but they are not firing, Commander, because they know they cannot win. Dravik replied with confidence. Continue on course. Take us deeper into their territory. For 3 days, the Thorian fleet advanced through human space, their sensors mapping everything within range, while automated defenses tracked their every move but never fired. And with each hour that passed without incident, Dravik's confidence grew stronger. This is pathetic, he declared on the third day. Where are their mighty fleets? Where are the terrible weapons that supposedly destroyed 17 expeditions? I see nothing but automated platforms and empty space. Yenna, however, grew more troubled with each passing hour, her instruments detecting anomalies that made no sense according to her understanding of physics and biology. Commander, I am detecting unusual energy signatures. What kind of signatures? Dravik asked, finally turning from the main display to face his science officer. I do not know, Yenna admitted, her voice uncertain. They appear to be coming from every human settlement we pass. Identical patterns, perfectly synchronized across light years of distance. Some kind of communication network? Dravik suggested. No, Commander. Yenna pulled up holographic displays showing the energy patterns. This is something else. The signatures originate from the central district of each colony, always in the same location relative to population centers, and they pulse in perfect harmony with each other. A weapon system, perhaps? If it is unlike any weapon I have ever encountered. Yenna replied. The energy type does not match any non-destructive technology. It is almost organic in nature. Dravik dismissed her concerns with a wave of one hand. Humans are Deathworlders. Their technology probably incorporates biological components. Focus on mapping military installations instead of worrying about civilian power signatures. But Yenna could not shake her growing unease, especially when her scans revealed something else. There were no military installations to map. No fortified positions, no defensive fleets stationed at strategic points. Just colonies going about their daily lives with minimal protection. "Commander," she reported quietly, "I do not believe humanity is hiding anything from us." "What do you mean?" "I mean their settlements are completely open." Yenna gestured to the scan results. "No hidden weapons, no cloaked fleets, no secret bases. They are simply living their lives as if we pose no threat whatsoever." "Then they are fools," Dravik declared. "And fools are easily conquered. Set course for the nearest major colony. We will land a team and gather intelligence directly." The target colony was designated New Seattle in human records, a settlement of approximately 2 million humans on a verdant world with vast oceans and dense forests. And as the Thorian fleet entered orbit, Yenna's instruments detected those same mysterious energy signatures pulsing stronger than ever. "The energy patterns are intensifying," she reported. "They are responding to our presence." "Preparing to respond to our weapons, you mean?" Dravik corrected. "Begin scanning for their defense systems. They must activate eventually." But the colony below showed no signs of defensive preparation. Cities continued their normal operations. Transport vehicles moved along established routes. And when Dravik ordered a landing party to descend to the capital's main plaza, the humans below did not even raise planetary shields. Captain Greg Hamilton sat in the command chair of the UHSV Sentinel, a patrol vessel that had been shadowing the Thorian fleet since they crossed the boundary. And his second-in-command, Lieutenant Amy Chun, monitored the automated warnings that the intruders continued to ignore. "They are landing a team on New Seattle," Amy reported, her voice tight with concern. "Should we intervene?" "Negative," Greg replied calmly. "Maintain observation protocol." They were warned. They chose to proceed, and now they will learn. "Learn what, sir?" Amy asked, though she suspected she knew the answer. "Learn why humanity's warnings should be taken seriously," Greg said quietly, "and learn why those 17 previous expeditions never came home." On the Pride of Dominion, Dravik watched his landing party's video feed as they stepped onto human soil, surrounded by curious colonists who approached with welcoming smiles rather than weapons. "Commander, the humans are friendly," his team leader reported, sounding confused. "They are offering us food and asking if we need medical assistance." "Bizarre," Dravik muttered. "Maintain alert status. This could be a trap." But as hours passed and the landing team explored the colony with human guides showing them cultural centers, schools, and parks, it became clear that no trap was forthcoming. And Dravik found himself more confused than ever. "Where is their military?" he demanded. "Where are the weapons that destroyed our predecessors?" His team leader stood in the colony's central plaza, where a large monument made of crystalline material rose from the ground, pulsing with gentle light that seemed to breathe with a rhythm like a living thing. "Commander, you need to see this," the team leader said, his camera focusing on the monument. "The humans call it Earthlink. Every colony has one." Dravik studied the image, noting how the monument's energy signature matched exactly what Yenna had been detecting. "What is its purpose?" "The humans say it connects them to their homeworld," the team leader replied. "They claim it is a gift from Earth itself." "Superstitious nonsense," Dravik scoffed. "It is probably just a communication relay or cultural symbol." But Yenna had been running continuous scans of the monument, and her instrument showed something that made her blood run cold in her veins. "Commander, that structure is not just receiving energy. It is connected to a network that spans this entire sector." "A computer network?" "No." Yenna's voice shook slightly. "A biological network." "Commander, these structures are alive, and they are all connected to something massive at the center of human space." "Ridiculous," Dravik said, but his confidence wavered for the first time since crossing the boundary on New Seattle's surface. A young human child named Kevin Torres approached the Thorian team leader with a flower in his small hands, offering it with an innocent smile. And when the alien scanned the simple plant with his instruments, the readings that came back made him freeze in shock. The flower was connected to the monument. The monument was connected to every colony in human space, and all of it led back through quantum entangled pathways to a single source, Earth itself. Commander, the team leader's voice came through shaking with fear. We need to leave. We need to leave right now. But even as he spoke, Yena's instruments aboard the Pride of Dominion detected massive energy buildups, forming around every ship in the Thorian fleet. And the mysterious network that connected all human colonies began to pulse with light that grew brighter and brighter with each passing second. Commander Dravik stared at his screens as energy readings climbed to levels that should have been impossible. And Science Officer Yena worked frantically at her console, trying to understand what was happening before it killed them all. Get the landing team back to the ship now, Dravik ordered. His earlier confidence completely evaporated. Recall all personnel and prepare for emergency jump to faster than light. But on New Seattle surface, the Thorian team leader found himself gently but firmly stopped by Mayor Susan Park, a human woman with gray hair and kind eyes who placed one hand on his armored shoulder with surprising strength. I am afraid you cannot leave just yet, Susan said softly. You came here with questions, and it would be rude of us not to provide answers first. We require no answers, the team leader insisted, backing away toward his shuttle. We are leaving immediately. Please, Susan's voice carried a note of genuine concern. If you leave now without understanding, your commander will only send more ships, and more of your people will suffer the consequences. Let us explain what you have stumbled into. The Thorian hesitated, his warrior training warring with his growing fear. But something in the human's expression made him pause. What is happening? What are those energy readings? Earth is waking up, Susan replied simply. It knows you came here with hostile intent, and it is preparing to protect its children. Earth is a planet, the team leader said. Planets do not wake up or have intent. Susan smiled sadly. Come with me. There is someone who can explain better than I can. She led the Thorian team through the plaza toward a building marked as the colony's Xenobiology Research Center, where Dr. Frank Ellis waited in a laboratory filled with plants and soil samples from dozens of worlds, including several containers marked with symbols the Thorians did not recognize. Thank you for staying, Frank said as they entered, his tone suggesting he was greeting expected guests rather than armed intruders. I am sure you have many questions about what your instruments are detecting. Explain these energy signatures, the team leader demanded, keeping his weapon ready despite Susan's apparent friendliness. Explain how a simple monument connects to your entire civilization. Frank gestured to a holographic display that showed Earth rotating slowly in space, its blue and green surface looking deceptively peaceful. To understand that, you need to understand Earth itself. And more importantly, you need to understand humanity's relationship with our homeworld. He manipulated the controls to show historical images of Earth's past. Vast cities burning, nuclear explosions scarring continents, oceans choked with pollution, and forests reduced to ash. Thousands of years ago, humanity nearly destroyed ourselves, Frank explained quietly. We fought wars that poisoned our own planet. We consumed resources without thought for tomorrow. And we brought Earth itself to the brink of death. The Thorians watched the images with recognition. Many species had similar periods in their history, times of violence and near extinction before achieving unity and space travel. But something happened, Frank continued. The images shifting to show Earth slowly healing. Our planet did not simply recover. It evolved, or perhaps it awakened from a sleep we never knew it was in. What do you mean awakened? The team leader asked despite himself. Earth became aware. Frank said simply, not conscious in the way you or I are conscious, but aware nonetheless. It recognized that we, its children, had nearly killed ourselves and nearly killed it in the process, and it chose to help us survive. The hologram showed networks of energy spreading across Earth's surface, connecting forests and oceans, mountains and plains into a single unified system. Earth taught us to live in balance, Frank explained. It showed us how to heal the damage we had done, and in return, we bonded with our homeworld in ways no other species has ever experienced. Yenna's voice crackled through the team leader's communicator, frantic and scared. Team leader, the energy signatures are not weapons. They are pieces of Earth itself. Every human colony carries a quantum-entangled fragment of your homeworld. Frank nodded, as if he had heard Yenna's transmission. Your science officer is correct. When we left Earth to colonize other worlds, we did not simply leave our planet behind. We carried Earth with us. He gestured to the monument in the plaza, visible through the laboratory windows. Every colony has an Earth link. It is not a symbol or a communication device. It is literally a living piece of our homeworld, grown from Earth's own essence and connected to the parent world through quantum bonds that transcend distance. That is impossible, the team leader protested. Matter cannot be quantum entangled on such a scale. Yet here we are, Susan said from behind him. And here is Earth, aware of your presence in its territory, aware of your intentions and preparing to respond. What will it do? The team leader asked, his voice dropping to barely a whisper. Frank's expression turned sad. That depends on what you came here to do. Earth does not respond to trespass itself. It responds to intent. The 17 expeditions that entered human space before you all came with the same purpose: to scout our territory for conquest, to identify weaknesses for exploitation, to map targets for future attacks. And Earth knew this? Earth knows everything that happens within its network, Frank confirmed. It felt their hostile intentions the moment they crossed our boundaries. And it gave them the same choice it will give you. Turn back. Acknowledge your mistake and leave in peace. And if they refused? Susan's voice grew even quieter. Then Earth protected us the only way it could. It removed the threat. The team leader's blood chilled. You mean it killed them? No, Frank said quickly. Earth does not kill. It preserves. Those 17 expeditions, all their crews, every single being aboard those ships, they still exist. He pulled up another holographic image, this one showing what appeared to be suspended animation chambers deep within Earth's crust. Earth absorbed them, studied them, tried to understand them, and found that their intentions remained unchanged. Even after being shown the consequences of their choices, they still planned to return with invasion forces. So Earth kept them? Earth is waiting, Susan explained, waiting for them to genuinely change, to understand that humanity means them no harm and wants only to live in peace. When they truly accept this, Earth will release them. The team leader transmitted everything back to the Pride of Dominion and on the bridge. Dravik listened with growing horror to the impossible truth. This is madness, he whispered. But his instruments confirmed every word. Ascension planet? Quantum-entangled colonies? Preserved expedition members waiting to change their minds. Commander, Yenna said urgently, the energy buildup around our ships has reached critical levels. Earth is preparing to do to us what it did to the others. Young Kevin Torres, the human child from earlier, appeared on their screen, having somehow accessed their communication systems without triggering any alarms. And he held up the flower he had tried to give the team leader earlier. This flower is connected to my world's Earth link, Kevin said in a child's voice that somehow carried across light years. And through that link to Earth itself. Earth wanted me to give it to your leader, but he ran away before I could. Why? Dravik heard himself ask. Because Earth wants you to know that it understands fear. Kevin replied. It knows what it is like to be scared and to lash out because of that fear. Humanity did that for thousands of years before we learned better. The child smiled, innocent and trusting. Earth is giving you the same chance it gave us. Choose to change. Choose to be better. Choose peace over conquest. It is not too late, but you have to decide soon. The transmission ended, and Dravik found himself staring at his screens where the energy readings continued to climb, knowing that within minutes Earth would make its move, and his fleet would face the same fate as the 17 expeditions that came before. Commander, his navigator Dren spoke quietly. I believe we need to make a choice, and we need to make it now. The bridge of the Pride of Dominion descended into chaos as alarms screamed warnings about energy levels that exceeded every safety parameter in Thorium military doctrine. And Commander Dravik stood frozen at his command position, while his crew looked to him for orders that could save their lives. Shields at maximum, his tactical officer reported, voice shaking with barely controlled panic. But the energy building around us is not attacking our shields. It is forming some kind of containment field. Can we break through it? Dravik demanded, his forearms gripping his command chair with enough force to dent the metal. Unknown. Commander, Tactical replied, our weapons are charged and ready. But I do not know if firing will free us or trigger whatever response Earth is preparing. Science Officer Yenna worked frantically at her console, analyzing data that rewrote everything she thought she understood about physics and biology. Commander, the quantum network is spreading. Earth's presence is extending throughout this entire sector, and we are completely surrounded. Navigator Dren turned from his station, his usual calm demeanor cracking to show genuine fear. Commander, I must speak with you privately. It is urgent. Dravik wanted to dismiss the request, but something in Dren's tone made him pause. Make it quick. We may have only minutes. They stepped into the small conference room adjacent to the bridge, and Dren immediately activated privacy shields to prevent anyone from overhearing what he was about to say. Commander, I know you do not believe in old stories, Dren began, but my family has preserved legends from before we achieved spaceflight, from the ancient times when my people first looked up at the stars. This is no time for mythology, Dravik snapped. Please. Commander, listen, Dren insisted. One of our oldest legends speaks of a world that dreams, a planet that achieved consciousness while its children still crawled in the dirt, a world so ancient that it predates our entire galactic civilization. Dravik stared at his navigator. You think Earth is this mythical world? I think Earth may be something far older and more powerful than humanity realizes, Dren replied. And I think we stumbled into territory protected by an entity that our ancestors wisely chose to avoid. Our ancestors never encountered Earth. Perhaps they did, Dren said quietly. Perhaps that is why the legend warns against approaching the world that dreams. Because those who do so with hostile intent are given a choice: change or be preserved until you do. The words struck Dravik like physical blows. You are suggesting we surrender? I am suggesting we choose wisely, Dren corrected. We came here to prove humanity's warnings were meaningless, and instead, we have discovered they were protecting us from our own hostile intentions. Earth is not our enemy, Commander. Our pride is. Before Dravik could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship as new contacts appeared on their sensors, and both officers rushed back to the bridge. Human vessels emerging from faster-than-light travel, the sensor operator announced. Multiple capital ships taking formation around our fleet. On the main display, sleek human warships materialized from the quantum foam of spacetime, their hulls bearing no obvious weapons, but radiating power that Dravik's instruments could barely measure. And at their center flew a vessel marked with command insignia, incoming transmission. Communications reported. Put it through, Dravik ordered, steeling himself for threats or ultimatums instead. The face that appeared on his screen belonged to a human woman with silver hair and admiral's insignia on her uniform. Her expression serious but not hostile. "This is Admiral Helen Carter of the United Human Space Forces," she said calmly. "Commander Dravik, your fleet is in violation of sovereign human territory, and you are currently surrounded by Earth's defensive network." "I am aware," Dravik managed to say, his voice tighter than he intended. "Then you also understand that you have very little time to make a critical decision," Helen continued, her tone almost gentle. "Earth responds to hostile intent, Commander. And my instruments show that your fleet entered our space with weapons charged and invasion protocols active." "We came to investigate," Dravik protested, "to verify your territorial claims." Alan's expression softened slightly. "You came to scout for future conquest. Earth knows this because it can sense intent through the network that connects all human colonies. It does not judge you for having these thoughts, Commander, but it will protect its children from those who would harm them." "So you will destroy us?" "No," Helen said firmly. "That is not how humanity operates, and it is certainly not how Earth operates. You still have a choice, Commander Dravik. You always had a choice." Lieutenant Carl Morrison, Helen's tactical officer, spoke quietly from his station on the human flagship. "Admiral, Earth's network has reached activation threshold. If the Thorian commander does not make a decision within the next 3 minutes, the containment will trigger automatically." Helen nodded acknowledgement but kept her attention focused on Dravik. "Listen to me carefully, Commander. Earth is not a weapon system or a military installation. It is a living entity that has chosen to protect humanity because we are its children, and it gives the same opportunity to everyone who enters our space." "What opportunity?" Dravik asked. "The opportunity to choose peace over violence," Helen replied. "To choose understanding over conquest. To choose life over whatever pride or ambition brought you here. If I refuse," Helen's expression turned sad, "then Earth will preserve you and your crew, just as it preserved the 17 expeditions before you. You will not be killed or harmed. You will be held in suspended animation until such time as Earth senses that your hostile intent has genuinely changed." "That could be forever," Dravik whispered. "It could be," Helen acknowledged. "Or it could be moments if you truly embrace the change. Earth is patient, Commander, but humanity is offering you something better." "What?" "Free will," Helen said simply. "Acknowledge your violation. Request formal permission to leave our space, and commit to approaching us peacefully in the future. Do this genuinely, from your core being, and Earth will release its hold on your fleet." Dravik looked around his bridge at the crew members who trusted him with their lives, at the displays showing Earth's massive network surrounding them with power beyond any weapon his people possessed, and at the human admiral who offered mercy when she could have simply watched them be absorbed into Earth's preservation system. "How do I know you are telling the truth?" he asked. "You do not," Helen admitted. "But consider this. If we wanted you dead, Earth could have simply destroyed your ships the moment you crossed our boundary. If we wanted you imprisoned, we would have let the automatic systems trigger without warning. Instead, I am here, offering you a way out that preserves your life, your crew, and your dignity." On New Seattle's surface, Mayor Susan stood with Dr. Frank and the Thorian landing team in the plaza, watching the Earth-Link pulse with increasing intensity. "Your commander is struggling with his choice," Frank observed quietly. "Earth can sense his conflict. What happens if he chooses pride over survival?" The Thorian team leader asked. "Then you will all sleep for a very long time," Susan said softly, "and we will care for you while you sleep, hoping that eventually you wake with changed hearts." The team leader looked at the monument, at the quantum network that connected it to a living planet across light years of space. and of the humans who stood beside him without fear or hatred despite his armed intrusion into their home. "I do not want to sleep," he said quietly, then activated his communicator. "Commander Dravik, this is Team Leader. I am on the planet's surface, and I can confirm everything the humans have told you is true. Please, sir, choose peace. Let us go home to our families." Aboard the Pride of Dominion, Dravik heard his subordinate's plea, felt the energy field tightening around his ship, and looked at the human admiral, who waited patiently for his decision. "What exactly do you want me to do?" he asked. Finally, Helen's relief was visible. "Broadcast a message to our communication network. State clearly that you acknowledge your unauthorized entry into human space, that you request formal permission to leave, and that you commit to approaching humanity through proper diplomatic channels in the future. But Commander, and this is critical, you must mean it." "Earth will know if I lie?" "Earth knows intent," Helen confirmed. "False words spoken with hostile thoughts will change nothing. This must be a genuine choice, or it is no choice at all." Dravik closed his eyes, feeling the weight of his pride warring with his responsibility to his crew. And in that moment of decision, he understood what the 17 previous commanders had failed to grasp. Sometimes strength meant admitting you were wrong. 6 months had passed since Commander Dravik made his choice. 6 months since the Thorian fleet broadcast their request for permission and felt Earth's massive presence released them from containment. And now the great chamber of Valdris Prime Station filled once again with representatives from across known space. But this time the atmosphere carried weight far heavier than political maneuvering. Dravik stood at the central podium where Ambassador Krell had stood before. But unlike Krell's aggressive posturing, Dravik's bearing showed the humility of someone who had glimpsed something beyond his understanding. And beside the main chamber entrance, Ambassador Tony Reeves and Counselor Nicole Price watched from the human delegation section with quiet attention. "Esteemed council members," Dravik began, his translation device carrying his words to every species present. "I appear before you today not as a conqueror who succeeded, but as a fool who learned wisdom through mercy he did not deserve." The chamber remained silent. Every delegate focused on the Thorian commander, whose expedition had become the subject of intense speculation throughout the galaxy 6 months ago. "I led a fleet of 7 vessels into human space without permission," Dravik continued. His forearms held in a Thorian gesture of complete honesty. "I went with hostile intent, planning to map human territory for future conquest, and to prove that their warnings were mere intimidation tactics." He paused, his mandibles clicking in what his species recognized as deep shame. "I was wrong about everything." Council Speaker Vess pulsed with interested blue light. "Commander Dravik, please tell this council what you discovered in human territory." Dravik activated a holographic display that showed Earth rotating in space, its surface connected by glowing lines of energy that extended outward to every human colony. "I discovered that humanity's warnings exist not to hide weakness, but to protect other species from consequences we cannot imagine." "Elaborate," Vess requested. "Earth is alive," Dravik said simply, letting the words hang in the stunned silence that followed. "Not alive in the way we understand biological life, but conscious nonetheless. It knows when vessels enter its territory, it senses their intentions, and it responds to protect the species it considers its children." Dozens of delegates erupted in disbelief, their various forms of speech creating a cacophony of denial and skepticism. But Dravik continued speaking over them. "I have brought complete sensor logs from my expedition," he announced. "Every scientific reading, every energy signature, every quantum measurement that proves what I say is true. My science officer has prepared detailed analysis that your own experts can verify." He gestured, and Science Officer Yenna approached the podium with data modules containing their findings. "Earth is not simply a planet," Yenna explained. her voice carrying the authority of rigorous scientific method. It is a quantum biological network that spans every human settlement across dozens of light years. Each colony carries a living fragment of Earth itself, connected through quantum entanglement that allows instantaneous communication and awareness. This violates known physics. A Zorothian scientist protested from the gallery. It violates physics as we understand them. Yenna corrected. But my measurements are accurate and reproducible. Earth operates on principles we have not yet discovered, possibly because no other species has ever achieved such symbiosis with their homeworld. Dravik continued his testimony, describing the moment his fleet was surrounded by Earth's defensive network, the choice Admiral Helen Carter offered, and the truth about the 17 previous expeditions. They are alive, he told the shocked council. All of them, every crew member from every unauthorized incursion over the past century. Earth did not destroy them or kill them. It preserved them in suspended animation, waiting for their hostile intentions to genuinely change. And if their intentions never change, someone called from the audience. Then Earth will wait, Dravik replied. It has infinite patience, and it will care for them indefinitely until they choose peace over conquest. Tony Reeves stood slowly, drawing attention from across the chamber. If I may address the council? Vess pulsed acknowledgement, and Tony walked calmly to the floor. Commander Dravik speaks truthfully about everything he witnessed, Tony confirmed. And humanity wants to clarify several points that I believe will ease the concerns of many species here today. He activated his own holographic display, showing the same Earth network that Dravik had presented, but with additional layers of information. First, Earth responds only to genuine hostile intent, Tony explained. Simple trespass, even armed trespass, is not sufficient to trigger preservation. Earth must sense that a vessel or fleet entered human space with plans for conquest, exploitation, or harm. How does it determine intent? A delegate asked. We do not fully understand the mechanism ourselves, Tony admitted, but we believe Earth reads patterns in brain activity and behavior that indicate true purpose. Beings who enter our space out of curiosity, emergency, or even defensive concern are warned but not threatened. Nicole Price added from her seat. The 17 preserved expeditions all shared common characteristics. They were military vessels. They ignored repeated warnings. They actively scanned for tactical weaknesses. And their crew members' communications indicated clear intentions to return with invasion forces. Second, Tony continued, humanity offers a simple solution that prevents any future incidents. Request permission before entering our space. Follow designated routes and approach us with peaceful intent. We have never denied legitimate diplomatic or commercial requests. Admiral Laura Mitchell, appearing via hologram from Earth's Orbital Command, spoke next. The human military maintains the warning beacons and monitors our boundaries. But we do not control Earth's response system. We cannot turn it off or command it. Earth protects us because it chooses to, not because we force it to do so. Are you saying you cannot stop Earth from preserving hostile expeditions? Vess asked with concern. We are saying we would not stop it even if we could, Lavra replied firmly. Earth's protection has allowed humanity to expand peacefully across the galaxy without building massive military fleets or fortified borders. We trust our homeworld to distinguish between genuine threats and honest mistakes. Dravik spoke again, his voice carrying the weight of personal experience. I can confirm that Earth gave my fleet multiple opportunities to turn back or request permission. It was only after I continued advancing with weapons charged and tactical scans active that Earth began its containment protocol. And yet you stand here free, a delegate observed. How did you escape preservation? I made a choice, Dravik said simply. Admiral Carter offered me and my crew the opportunity to acknowledge our violation. request formal permission to leave, and commit to approaching humanity peacefully in future. I accepted, and Earth released us immediately. He looked directly at the assembled delegates, but understand this, my acceptance had to be genuine. Earth knew my thoughts, my intentions, my very core being. I could not have lied or pretended. I had to truly choose peace, and in that moment of choice, I had to mean it with everything I was. What made you choose peace over pride? Someone asked quickly. Drovic was silent for a moment. Remembering young Kevin Torres and his offered flower. Remembering Susan Park's kindness to armed intruders. Remembering Dr. Frank Ellis, patiently explaining humanity's history instead of celebrating their capture. A human child tried to give me a flower, he said finally. And in that simple gesture, I understood something profound. Humanity could have destroyed my fleet the moment we crossed their boundary, but instead they sent a child with a gift. What kind of species responds to armed invasion with kindness? His mandibles clicked with something that might have been wonder. I realized that humanity's greatest weapon is not Earth's power, but their choice to offer mercy when they could demand surrender. Earth preserves hostile expeditions not as punishment but as protection, waiting patiently for understanding to replace aggression. Tony spoke into the contemplative silence that followed. Humanity learned this lesson ourselves thousands of years ago, when we nearly destroyed Earth through our own violence and greed. Our homeworld forgave us, healed us, and taught us to be better. Now Earth offers that same opportunity to others. The Council voted that day to formally recognize human territorial sovereignty, establishing diplomatic protocols for requesting passage through human space and creating educational programs to help other species understand. Earth's unique nature ambassador Crow, who had initiated the original challenge, sat in the audience watching his successor lead the Thorian delegation and apologizing to humanity for their hostile actions. 3 months after the council session, the first authorized diplomatic mission entered human space following proper protocols. A small fleet of unarmed vessels from a dozen different species, each having requested and received formal permission to visit Earth itself. Captain Danny Price commanded the escort fleet that guided them through human territory. And as they approached Earth's orbit, every visitor felt something they could not quite explain. A presence vast and ancient, aware and welcoming. Protective but not threatening. Welcome to Earth. Danny broadcast to the diplomatic fleet. Our homeworld greets you as friends. On Earth's surface, the preserved,